2022 Jaguar I-Pace has a lot of enhancements. Is it enough to take on all the newcomers? Well, let's find out. There's a lot of excitement over the blizzard of new electric vehicles entering the market. It's easy to forget about the ones that already exist. Considering the svelte form factor of the Jaguar I-Pace, it's kind of surprising this machine isn't high on the lust list for the shape alone. Drawn up by legendary designer Ian Callum, it looks like the offspring of an F-Type and E-Pace. How do you make the I-Pace even more attractive? Well, for 2022, Jaguar adds a lot of extra standard equipment, it charges faster, and it's significantly less expensive by around 11 grand. It now starts at about $71,000 with destination. This one's 73, and that's all before any federal or state tax incentives. And it's pretty loaded. I-Pace is only offered in the top trim HSE configuration now. It costs much less than Porsche's Taycan Cross Turismo. There's a slight premium over Model Y performance. Unlike the Tesla, you won't see the Jag coming and going. That's due in part to early models having a number of issues, like software glitches and underwhelming range. Reputations get around. I had this car for a week without a single hiccup for what that's worth. Many forget that I-Pace has a dual personality. It's happy to romp around on pavement, but with dual-motor all-wheel drive, it's a decent off-roader with the ability to ford 20 inches of water. A primer on what makes it go. The two motors each pump out the same amount of power for a total of 394 horses and 512 pound-feet of torque. Feeding them is a 90 kilowatt-hour battery pack, 84.7 usable, that provides an EPA-rated driving range of 234 miles, though the Monroney for this car says 222 for some reason. Unlike some EVs, this needs to be pushed to get things going. I-Pace is on the conventional side that way. There is no geared transmission, choose direction here, and there are no steering wheel paddles for shifting, of course, or to add regeneration drag. That's done in the menu. There's a head-up display. I do like those. Drive modes? Yeah, there are a bunch to help the Jaguar get through all sorts of conditions. One reason it's such a good off-road machine is the air suspension. It rises from 6.5 inches of ground clearance to around 11. The great thing about electric cars, other than the instant low-end torque that's really fun, is that they're incredibly quiet. The car is on, and you can hear nature, huh? And it's still incredibly fast, 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds. That's so much fun, and not just taking off. It'll push you back into your seat even at speed. After acceleration, most people are interested in how far it'll go on a charge. The 234-mile EPA range depends on a lot of factors, like how hard the throttle's mashed, obviously. And in the real world, I'm seeing about 225 miles of range, with the temperatures in the mid-40s and a lot of highway driving. Those things aren't really good for EV range. Kia EV6, Mustang Mach-E, and Tesla Model Y are all rated at around 275 miles with all-wheel drive. Typically, Elon's company tends to be overly optimistic, but still, the Jag brings up the rear. The Navi system is smart enough to find charging stations along a set route, even estimates battery level upon arrival. So the I-Pace, not the most efficient EV out there. And it's not my job to defend Jaguar, but I will play devil's advocate. People have bought luxury cars that get really poor gas mileage for years and thought nothing of it. So there's that. I know for EVs it's a little different. I-Pace has many fine qualities that would make enthusiasts lust over one. For starters, it's quiet, what you'd expect from a car that goes for 70 grand, but where it shines is on an empty country road. Electric cars, by their very nature, handle really well because of the low center of gravity, yada, yada, yada. We've been over that a million times, but the Jaguar is kind of special. Bend it hard into a corner, and the steering is really precise. This thing is exceptionally fun to drive, a cut above. On center feel is as locked down as Fort Knox, and the steering weight rises with speed to become the definition of confidence. I've complained about road feel, or the lack of it, in other performance cars. Jaguar's is an art form. It's a true sports car dynamic. I-Pace has a switchable one-pedal driving mode, and I have it in its most aggressive setting. Let's do the Mississippi test. I'm going 30 miles an hour, foot off the throttle, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi. Yeah, one-pedal driving, definitely a thing. One thing about EVs, there's no engine sound to mask any of the little squeaks and things that happen in a car. So when you come to a stop and use the brake pedal, you hear things. That's the only wayward creak I heard from this cat, and I suspect an adjustment at the dealership would take care of it. Other than that, the structure is Gibraltar solid. Speaking of sound, there's an adjustable performance tone that's inside the cabin. I've got it set for its most dynamic sound. I doubt that you can get the gravity of it in person. It sounds really cool. It's not designed by Hans Zimmer like the ones found in the BMW iX, but the stereo quality is pleasantly complex. About the semi-autonomous driving tech, that's now standard on I-Pace. I'm not going to get deep into it. It's fine. It's good, average, certainly not on the level of Tesla Autopilot or GM Super Cruise. It's about mid-pack. It takes gentle corners fine, but once things start getting twisty, you do really need to have your hands on the steering wheel. Visibility? Visibility is fine. Forward and to the side. Rearward, there is a bit of a blind spot, and that back window, it's like a porthole. There's a camera-based digital rear view mirror that's a huge help. Sorry, forgot to shoot it. Eventually, this needs to be charged. The onboard unit goes from 7 kilowatts to 11, so a full fill at home using level 2 drops from 12.5 hours to 8.5, a solid improvement. However, at DC fast chargers, I-Pace just doesn't charge as quickly as some of the newer EVs out there, and if you travel a lot, then it's going to make a difference. You're going to wait longer. Thing is, some 85% of all charging is done at home, and I don't recommend an EV unless you can do that. In that case, you plug in, you go to sleep, you wake up, you got a full battery. In that scenario, charging speed doesn't really make a difference. You can add some 63 miles in 15 minutes at terminals like these. Speed, of course, depends on the battery temperature and the level of charge when you're plugging in. Once charged, it can precondition the battery in extreme temperatures. One reason why EV shoppers would be tempted to go with the Jag? Other than Lucid, this might be the most handsome cabin in the electrified class, even considering Porsche and Audi. Materials are all first-rate, down to piano black that looks lifted off a Bosendorfer. Pockets are nicely finished with rubber mats to keep rattles down. There's storage all over the place. One advantage to EV skateboard design is the ability to create spaces like these for small things. None of them are very big. You won't be storing an iPad in here. Seats are close to Volvo-grade comfy and can be adjusted in nearly every way. Heated and vented, too. The controls are the clever dual-function Jaguar Land Rover dials that double for the HVAC controls, a great way to save space and keep things simple. About the only sniggly gripe I have in here are small door releases. Personally, I like them big and meaty. I-Pace has a big glass roof. We love those in Seattle because it's often cloudy and dreary here. Lets a lot of light into the cabin. In Los Angeles or Phoenix, not so much. So there is this sunshade. It is manual, kind of a Band-Aid. Sometimes a Band-Aid is what you need, though. It has 2 sections. I left them in place since refitting them seems like a hassle. Jaguar has improved its user interface a great deal. What used to be cumbersome and laggy is now snappy and well organized. Touch Pro Duo has many of the features that people expect from a modern system. It's Duo because of the second screen down here. It's clear and sharp, my camera angle isn't so great. It has some voice command technology. BMW, Mercedes, and Volvo do that better. But all of this, plus multi-phone Bluetooth pairing and standard Android Auto and Apple CarPlay will keep people happy. And the Meridian 3D audio system is excellent with natural spatial staging, and it's standard.
Gotta say, I kind of forgot about the iPace. Yeah, I've heard that a lot. Not as if you have great memory, though. Seriously? And I'm supposed to be the evil twin? All right, we're both 5'9", and this space has nearly everything that I want out of a back seat. Generous headroom, knee, leg, and foot room are good. The cushions are high enough so that thigh support is excellent. These are very comfortable seats, and the door openings. Big enough so that you can get car seats in and out without any issues. Door pockets, those are a little bit on the small side, no big whoop. I do wish there were built-in sunshades though. 2 seat back pockets? Yeah, you know, kids fight over those. Adjustable vents, those are on the B pillar. No separate climate zones, but at least there are heated seats and all the power you'll need. The floor is not perfectly flat, but this isn't too intrusive. Here's something that people forget about. Underneath the back seat, this little shelf area, good for small things like an umbrella. As far as 3 adults back here, yeah, it's possible. I would keep that to short trips because it'll get a little bit crowded. 2 back here would be great. You know, I'm a hedonist. I'm the evil twin.
iPace has a planted, aggressive stance, the kind of design that looks like it means business. There's a strong wedge form to it with curves integrated organically into the shape. Partly due to rarity, it's a head turner, and frankly, I think the Portofino blue paint hides a lot of the goodness. In other colors, like Firenze red or Barrasco gray, this machine pops. The rear aerodynamics are supposed to keep the rear glass clear without a wiper. Take it from a Seattle guy, that doesn't work so well.
You may have noticed that a lot of the EVs that have come out lately have a sleek SUV crossover look like the iPace here. ID4, Ioniq 5, EV6, Mustang Mach-E. It's because they're practical.
And details like this, and this only help. These elastic straps work well. Under the floor, there's room for the travel charge cord, but you won't find a spare. Do electric cars not get flat tires? Repair kits don't always work. Seat releases are here. It's quite a reach to get to them, maybe go around back to the doors. It would be easier. All down, the load floor is nearly flat, and that's 51 cubic feet. 40-20-40 split seats make me happy. And before I forget, there is a frunk, certainly not as big as Mustang Mach-E's or Tesla Model Y. These won't fit in here. With seats up, there's a little more than 25 cubic feet to work with. iPace is practical, with a TP trunk test score of 6. That's pretty standard in class.
Now, a lot of you look at this and think, it's not going to close. What's the point of that? Of course, it has to close. That's part of the test, see? And one thing that I forgot to show you, the security shade, it does lay flat in the cargo floor, so you don't have to leave it in the garage. Always handy. Let's wrap this up. It's red light, green light time.
Green lights. More than most EVs, iPace has compelling driving dynamics. Enthusiasts will love this. The crafted interior is a lovely space to spend time in. In a world where all cars seem to look similar, this is distinctive and emotional. iPace has both sports car and off-road chops. I've pushed it on trails and through water. It's impressive. Yellow lights? Touch Pro Duo is a welcome upgrade. It lacks world-class voice recognition. I like the standard glass roof. It doesn't open, and that optional shade is an afterthought. The charging speed is improved, still hardly best in class for road tripping. Red light. The 234-mile range rating lags competitors, plain and simple. Visibility out the back is awful, thank goodness for cameras. And the Jaguar reputation for having gremlins has likely scared more than a couple buyers away. But again, I experienced no glitches in 7 days, and I drove this a lot. Seems like many of the kinks have been worked out. Jaguar's had years to do it. And it's backed by a solid warranty. 5 years of full coverage, including scheduled maintenance and roadside assistance.
No doubt about it, the 2022 I-Pace is greatly improved. It costs less, it looks great, it has a beautiful interior, it's really fun to drive. Is it perfect? No. People will ding it for the range and the charging speed, but it is very luxurious.
And more than that, it's loads of fun to pilot. That means a lot to some. I-Pace may not be the new kid on the block or have the range of its competitors, but the way it covers the miles are worth the commitment. One last thing about the driving dynamics. I-Pace is much like the Porsche Macan in that it's very compelling, very fun to drive. I know the Porsche isn't electric, but it soon will be, should be arriving in the next year or so. Maybe the pandemic will delay the launch. We can always blame COVID, though I never missed producing a review over the past few years. I even made a few extras.
As always, a round of applause for Martin Campbell. He's very talkative. I can't get him to shut up. Great driver, though. This is the end where I normally try to give you guys a fun fact. It's one of those things that's becoming nearly as popular as the Costco TP trunk test. And this week, it's visual. A lot of people don't know that the I-Pace has this unique aerodynamic feature. It's a pass-through. Visual aids here. Here we go. I'm going to take my iPhone and pull it through. Pretty cool, huh? I suppose I could have just taken a bottle of water and poured it down there and done it the easy way to show you that, but I'm all about the high-tech way and apparently the hard way. Remember, subscribe to this channel, click notifications. I think I'm contractually obligated to say that because I'm on YouTube. Follow me on Twitter, I'm very active there. And if you have a question, leave it in the comments, okay? I'm really good about getting back to people if they have questions. That's Driven. I'm Tom Voelk.